Hey everyone, and I hope you're having a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this. Obviously for me it is nighttime. It is currently 11:32, and again I still don't know why I'm telling you the names, the times, but I do. So, anyway, with no further introduction of this video, let's just start continuing our Salem, Massachusetts tour. In 1867, Reverend Charles Wentworth Upham, paying Gallows Hill in less than favorable light. It is hard to climb the western side, impossible to clamber up the southern face. Settlement creeps down from the north and has partly ascended the eastern activity. But you can never reach the brink. Scattered patches of the soil are too thin to attempt cultivation, and the rock is too raggy and steep to allow occupation. This quote is key to discover the true Gallows Hill, which for the larger part of century is believed to sit at the intersection of Hampton and South Street. In 1692, the process for witchcraft execution was rather formalistic. As the morning frogs rolled around the tree trunks and flirted with the flowers, the victims were removed from Old Witch Gallows and forced into two-wheel ox carts. The carts then rumbled down present-day Exit Street before the townspeople of Salem Village, before rolling to a top somewhere down the hill. According to the local lore, the condemned were then hung from the locust trees before being tossed into a ditch, the burial rites, as it was then illegal to give a proper Christian burial to those who acted decently unchristian-like. More recently, historians have claimed that the locust trees hangings were nothing more but a rumor, and the victims that were actually hung from ladders or traditional gallows. It seems unlikely that the locust trees were all strong enough to uphold bodies. Author Francis Hill is hunting for witches' claimed when the ladder was pushed away from whatever it was leaning on, they died a slow, painful death. But whenever the ladder was supposed by a branch or scaffold, the sources do not say. Historian Susan Seville believes otherwise. The hill itself does not seem a very promising location when you get right down to it, she wrote in her book, Hidden History of Salem. Seville gathered her information from more contemporary sources. In her book, she referenced Robert Caffey, who argued the cart going down the hill with these 8 to exhaustion was for some time at a set. The affected and others say that the devil hindered it. The legend goes that after the hangings, including those from the witch trials, the sheriff Horwin would have his men throw the lifeless bodies into a ditch or crevice, and the hangings themselves would have been performed outside of the city limits, at Gallows Hill, or at least where many assumed it was. There is no appropriation ditch that bodies would have been put. It's said that in the dead of night, Families of the condemned would climb into the boats, canoes, and sail for Gallows Hill, kneel their dead loved ones, and place them in the boat, transferring down the river until they reached their homestead and gave them an accurate, proper burial. But Rebecca one of the 19 accused executed victims, exists as an example that families didn't it. In 1921, historian Sidney Purley made a startling discovery. While the site of Gallows Hill did not offer a crevice nor even the sound of a terrain to hold up two-wheeled ox carts, there was a smaller hill nearby that fits the description perfectly. Moreover, this smaller hill had a perfect view of across the river. This proved Purley's assumption that this hill was the actual Gallows Hill, as recorded existence that Curtin John Buckman and his family could watch the executions from their house across the waterway. Based on Purley's findings, an even closer house existed, John McIntyre. 4 months after the infamous trials, McIntyre attempted to sell his house and sold it for dramatically less than it should have been. According to Susan Seville, unfortunately the North River does not interest here any longer. In fact, it's been mostly paved over and concreted into part of Salem proper. Today, the Gallows Hill that most people are aware of is nothing but a baseball diamond. But up on the baseball diamond and the children's park that surrounds it, gold fragments have allegedly been found there. Naturally, the debate ensues on whenever these skeletal remains belong to the 1692 witch trial victims. According to the Peabody Access Museum, who reported their findings to Joseph Salem author Sam Literals, gold fragments have been found, but we'll never really know what they are from. An unearthed record from the late 18th century delivered news of a mass excavation found in the general area of Gallows Hill. Immediately, it was largely assumed that the remains had been those of the condemned. Only the record also made note of a place of coffin found in the mix. And as many historians have since pointed out, the 19 witchcraft victims were wearing sand coffins. They have also been claimed that Philip English, the husband of Mary, one of the accused, actually moved the remaining victims after their hangings. Where he moved them, another subject for debate, though it is largely believed that the bodies were placed in a church cellar in Marblehead. In January of 2016, the Salem News announced something spectacular. Nearly 325 years after the 19 people accused of witchcraft were hung in the city, a group of scholars has finally confirmed the place where they met their fate, Proctor's Ledge. According to the 7 scholars who formed the Gallows Hill Project, Proctor's Ledge, first discovered by Sidney Purley in 1921, compromised the perfect placement for Gallows Hill. As Emerson Tad Baker, a historian professor at Salem State University, told in the newspaper, there was never really a eureka moment. I think most of us were talking about a number of scholars who were working on this. We knew Purley's research wasn't really good. The group worked diligently for 5 years, using court records, maps, aerial photographs, and even some fancy ground-penetrating radar to explain the 1692 witchcraft hysteria. While approximately 1,000 records exist from the period, hardly any witnesses of the hanging still existed. But one does, and is laid the foundation for Gallows Hill Project discovery. Historian Mary Lynn Rose made a great find while digging through the century-old records. It seems that in 1692, Rebecca Mays, another woman believed to be practicing evil witchcraft, was removed from her home in nearby Boxford. Her cart turned down Boston Street, and she could see the gallows where they stood as she headed for Salem Village. Later on that night, Mays found herself permanently on trial. According to the report, the magistrate asked Mays if she witnessed the execution that morning. Her response was that she did at the house below the hill, and that yet she witnessed the folks in their hanging. The house below the hill was none other than John McCarter's house, the same house Sidney Hurley had found years earlier, and a house that stood all the way until 1890 and at Boston Street, at 19 Boston Street. The site Rebecca saw now has an address, 59 Boston Street, an address that so happens to be behind Walgreens drugstore. Salem Mayor Disperl told CBS Boston, "Definitely a dark part of our history, an infamous time in Salem where people turn on each other. I think we learned a lot of these lessons. We've worked hard to overcome what happened in 1692. Currently a memorial for the victims in the works to be placed at Partners Lens, the final destination for 19 victims in 1692. For decades, especially with growing popularity of ghost tours, talks of ghosts roaming Gallows Hill have made for a spooky story. Though we now know that Gallows Hill is not the true hanging site of the 1692 victims, tales of ghosts and hauntings have nevertheless pervaded Salem's paranormal culture. Did that like the scriptwriter? Okay. Salem Night Tour owner Tim McGuire informed author Salem Rotorist that Gallows Hill has a dark history outside the witchcraft hysteria. In fact, McGuire claims that Gallows Hill has been the site of multiple suicides, as well as truly inexplicable phenomenon. There have been full-body apparitions spotted within the woods, disembodied voices shrieking in the middle of the night, so eerie that the storming sound sends chills racing down the spines of even the most unfathomable people. So even if people do not believe in ghosts, they still get freaked out at this area. But still people worry about the demonic happenings at Gallows Hill. In October 1992, 200 people gathered together, all from various churches in the area. They displayed and worried about the dark interchange that stained Gallows Hill. The following May, the Salem Evening News claimed Before the formal program of sighting and prayer began, a group of close to 100 gathered in a small, tight circle on top of Gallows Hill, raised their arms skyward, and chanted, "The curse over Salem with witchcraft is broken." They then circled the town water tower on top of the hill, was decorated with the drawing of a witch, and performed a laying on of the hands on the tower as a sign of spiritual healing. Hold on. Respect for the dead, fear of the evils of witchcraft, and guilt of the slaughtering of the condemned has been a common reason why many believe Gallows Hill to be haunted. For many who visit, they are immediately consumed with a sense of foreboding dread. Those tour guides who once made their rounds trek up the hill, their guests no longer do so, convinced that something evil lurks in the depths of Gallows Hill. As one company put it, something occurs at the eerie spot, and it's not uncommon to see guests burst into tears entering upon this area. Still, whether or not the spirits of the condemned still haunt the area, something is causing paranormal activity at Gallows Hill. Strange sounds emerge from the area at night, knocking and thumping that wakes the neighbors from their sleep, and of course, full body apparitions said to walk the grounds certainly don't make for a leisurely stroll throughout the park. So, when you visit Gallows Hill, I would, but then I would also be afraid that something might follow me home. So, what would you do? Thank you for watching my story. As always, hope to know what's with you later. And until next time, sleep tight.